We have a few learning objectives for this training video. By the end, we hope that you will be able to 1. Identify when the process and outcome evaluations take place. 2. Describe the purpose of the evaluations. 3. And finally, acquire successful techniques to carry out the evaluations.
You've reached the Department of Injury Prevention. This is Brandon speaking.
Hi. Yeah, my name is Kate. I'm the varsity coach for the women's volleyball team at Western. Yes, we have a significant increase in our ankle injuries this season. I'm wondering if you could help us.
Yeah, that's what we specialize in. Absolutely. I can meet you sometime this week if that works for you.
We have a practice on Thursday if you'd like to come and observe.
Alright, perfect. I'll see you then. And I'll develop a plan and then I'll be able to get back to you and hopefully we can resolve that issue. Alright, talk to you later. Hi, you must be Kate?
Yes, Brandon?
Yeah, nice
Great
to meet you.
You too.
So, you said you had practice starting in a few minutes. Sounds good. What I'm going to do today, Kate, is I'm just going to observe the practice, watch what your players are doing, and some potential things that I think could be worked on in the injury prevention plan. And I will, take my own notes, come up with a plan, and maybe deliver it to you sometime next week. Like, what day would work for you?
Monday would be best. We can meet right after practice again.
Monday sounds good. Okay, so same place.
Yep.
On Monday.
Great. So, do you want to observe now?
Absolutely.
Great. Thanks. Alright, it's great to see you again. I'm looking forward to hearing what you've created. These ankle injuries are causing my team serious losses.
Yeah, well, obviously it's never good to have your star players out, especially if you do something like ankle injuries. Those can be really serious and
completely preventable.
Yeah, exactly, and I can imagine you guys are a really competitive team, so let's see what we can do about it. So after observing that practice, I've come up with a few goals. Obviously, from what we can see, the main goal would be to decrease the amount of ankle injuries present on your team. And another goal, I guess, would be to implement a strategy to help athletes strengthen their ankles and use proper technique to prevent these injuries from happening. So, to do this, in my opinion, the best way would be to work on incorrect jumping and landing techniques, because I've noticed a lot of your players are having issues with rolling their ankles on the landing. And I've also noticed there seems to be like a lot of overcompensation going on a couple of players when they're jumping and even doing quick lateral movements. So we can work on strengthening their evers and inverters, just some extra muscles in the leg to help this out. So what I'm going to do to evaluate this plan is, I think, if you don't mind, I'll come back to one practice a week and just kind of see how effective this plan is and see if there's anything that I need to adjust. And after about 4 weeks or so, I'll come back and just kind of do an end outcome evaluation just to see how effective my plan was, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Great. I look forward to it.
All right.
Thank you very much. The most commonly recognized purposes for evaluations are planning and efficiency, ensuring that there is justification for the policy and that the resources are used effectively, accountability, demonstrating how far the program has achieved its objectives, implementation, improving the performance of the program and its effectiveness, and also, finally, institutional strengthening, improving and developing capacity among program participants.
What is a process evaluation? The systematic examination and assessment of the features of an initiative and its future effects in order to produce information. This information is used by those who have an interest in the program's success and effectiveness. Why do a process evaluation? To monitor and review progress of the program, justifications for funding or obtaining more funding, has a role in accountability, for example, protecting the public from inappropriate or harmful practices, aid in understanding the relationship between specific programs, elements, and program outcome, and assess the feasibility of a project.
Now time for the process evaluation. So the program has been in place for about a month now, and I'm interested to see the progress. How did I create this program? Was it established effectively? I did an awful lot of background information research before implementing this program. I don't want to cause any further injury to these athletes. This background information included what common injuries were and why they were caused. I also increased my knowledge of strengthening exercises and treatment procedures. I spoke to a few physiotherapists to gain their expertise. What is the status of this program's progress towards achieving its goal? Well, I think it's still a bit too soon to tell whether or not my program will significantly decrease injuries for this team. Instead, I'm probably going to focus on this evaluation on whether or not the program is being implemented and followed correctly by the participants. Do the participants have adequate resources to achieve these goals? I've noticed that some of the athletes do not want to purchase expensive running shoes, the athletic tape, or braces. I have found that an extra expense for university students is discouraging them to meet their requirements. This may be a justification for funding. Athletes need these products, therefore maybe this is something that the university can do to provide assistance. I should look into this. I have made sure that the coach and trainers have the resources necessary to teach proper techniques as well. Have there been any negative or harmful effects of the program so far, / have the athletes complained at all? I haven't seen an increase in the injuries, which is a good thing. Yet there hasn't been a significant reduction in injuries, which I can't say is a good thing. The relationship between the injuries and poor jumping and landing techniques and ankle taping, I guess the overall effectiveness is still to be determined. Outcome evaluation. It has been about 6 months since I implemented the program to decrease injuries in the UWO women's varsity volleyball athletes. An outcome evaluation will help me determine if I am conducting the right program activities to bring about the results that I believe to be needed by the athletes, rather than just engaging in activities which seemed reasonable enough at the time. In my experience, outcomes are usually stated in terms of enhanced learning. For example, increased knowledge, perceptions and attitudes, or skills. I am very interested to see what the long-term effects of this program were on the athletes. Have the injuries decreased on the volleyball team? The rates of injuries have slightly decreased since the plan was implemented, but this change is nowhere near what I had expected. I'm not exactly sure why this is, though. There is definitely the potential that external factors that were not addressed in the program were the causes of the ankle injuries. After some speculation, I have thought of some confounding variables. The injuries may have been due to improper shoes, other players interfering and not knowing their positions, or the overuse of muscles. The next step would be to determine what I can change for the next plan and how I can adapt this program to meet the needs of other players more effectively. I will suggest to the coach that the university help subsidize the cost of braces, pre-wrap and heel pads, and other injury prevention tools. We definitely need to include processes to combat the other factors affecting ankle injuries. I will suggest to the coach that he spend some time at the beginning of the next season explaining the ideologies and suggestions of the adapted program. In the future, the goals of the program need to be changed and the timeline extended. If the coach wants to continue with the program, I would be happy to adapt it to make sure that the program is more effective.
What is an outcome evaluation? It is a type of an evaluation that measures the effects of an intervention. Typically, the emphasis is on the measurement of intended effects. Purpose of an outcome evaluation: to measure the degree of change that took place, offers causality, for example, was the intervention the contributor for the change, used to implement future long-term plans to make the program more efficient and cost-effective. How to do an outcome evaluation. The pre-post design is measuring the pre-program behavior as a baseline and comparing it to the post-program behavior. Use surveys and questionnaires, tests and assessment, interviews, and observation. So what are some of the potential outcome errors? Common problems in drawing conclusions from our outcome evaluation include Type 1 error, the wrong conclusion that an intervention has achieved significant change when it actually has failed to do so. Example, the process demonstrated taping, jumping, and landing skills were more technically correct. However, this did not result in significant injury reduction. It is possible that the injuries were related to other external variables which cannot be controlled. Another source of error would be type 5 error, where the intervention is shown to have a statistically significant effect, but the change is small as to have no practical significance. Example would be, even though the process demonstrated that the proper taping techniques were followed, the effect on injury prevalence remained the same.
Hey Kate, how's it going?
It's good, just mapping out the rest of the season.
Yeah, well, I guess you're gonna have to do that with the same amount of injuries as before.
Yeah, we've some interesting program outcomes, I hear.
Yeah, well, from the outcome evaluation, we could see that there were slight increases in the resistance from the program that was implemented, but it wasn't significant enough to produce an actual effect as for lowering the amount of ankle injuries that were present.
So what do you suggest then? How do we proceed?
Well, that's up to you. If you would like to continue using my services, we can develop another plan and maybe just take another course of action. But that's up to you, and you can make that decision at a later time.
Okay, well,
It was a pleasure working with you, and hopefully I'll hear from you in the future.
Great.
So just to recap, so far we have learned to identify when process and outcome evaluations should take place. We have described the purpose of evaluations, and finally, we've learned to acquire techniques to carry out evaluations.